going on? We'll get going here in just a little bit. I hate that glare. I hate it. Maybe if I kill that light, it might help. A little bit. Okay. We'll get going here in just a second. Need to get the link. There we go. Hopefully everyone's having a wonderful Monday. I almost didn't know what day it was. Oh, I gotta love these days where you're just stuck inside all the time. Oh, boy. Well, again, hopefully everyone's having a decent Monday. Mine's going pretty good, all things considered. Things are going really, really good. We need to hear back on, like, this whole house buying process is just taking forever. Tell you one thing I'm definitely getting tired of is not being able to go to do any kind of recreational shopping at all. I mean, I found myself wanting to go to the mall. And I hate just going to the mall to look. I need to have a set reason to go to the mall. Not to mention, if you live where I live in central New York near Syracuse, you only go to Destiny. Shopping Town's pretty much all but shut down if it's not already shut down. And Great Northern is on the verge of shutting down. And I actually really like really like that mall. It's quieter. I know a lot of the people who own businesses in there. Posted in one of the groups, and a guy responded me back by giving me the link to his video. I don't think he understands. I don't think he understands how this works. So, but yeah. So then there's Destiny. Like I would have loved to go to just walk around Destiny if possible, but I can't because of stupid COVID and stupid people and our stupid governor and just stupid. This whole situation's stupid. I'm going to vent on this for a little bit. You know, I don't want to get conspiracy theorists. I don't want to, I'm not going to point fingers at people, but this whole shutdown is just so unbelievably stupid. Especially where I live, where cases have been declining for like at least a couple of weeks. And our governor has made it clear he wants to reopen the state starting, I think it was like the 15th, May 15th, which is 2 weeks after what he originally said. So he released, or not released, he did a press conference today talking about how we're still in decline. We've seen, there are more deaths. And I want to just mention that right there. Like, any loss of life right now is tragic. But, and this is where people are going to, disagree, and there's going to be that level of disconnect. Every single day, people die. It's a fact we all need to come to terms with. And that's why every single day, I try to live life, with a modest and I almost say like optimistic view of the world, because I don't want to go to bed angry, and then the next day, something terrible happens to me or someone I love. But with that being said, this whole situation, I feel like, is just getting spiraled out of control and turning into much more than it actually is. I was talking about this with a few family members, and we're all pretty much on the same page with this whole situation. People are sick of being inside, and we all agree that you need to take precautions. You need to make sure, wear the mask, because that's now mandatory in New York as well. Gloves are not, although I'd argue why you aren't wearing them to begin with. But the whole thing is just really silly. And you might as well just have people say you can't leave the house unless you're wearing gloves and your masks. But at the same time, you then have to supply said equipment. So I was just saying to myself the other day, man, I would love to just walk through Destiny Mall, which is several floors of just stores and obnoxious vendors and people. And I'm very much the kind of person where I don't like being in giant groups of people. It's very claustrophobic for me, not to mention a lot of the vendors are pretty slimy, but you do what you can do. But yeah, that's just kind of where I'm at with this whole situation, this whole coronavirus. And apparently I'm not supposed to be saying that, but I'm not monetized or anything like that. And I don't plan on being monetized anytime soon. If I were to end up doing this for a living, it would be through paid support. So that way I don't get any financial support from YouTube at this point, because I 100% disagree with how they have been conducting themselves. So with that said, yeah, it is. This whole situation is ridiculous, and people are reacting to it on many different levels. I'm reading something on Facebook, another political post. Yeah, people are now talking about how the government wants to do a limited income, which I'm not. That was a nice one. People coming by and hanging out. Hey, feel free to chat. I'm just going to be sitting here talking because, y'all came to check out this fat guy chatting into his cam, because you probably didn't have a whole lot to do, and doing my catch-up series kind of weekly. Why? Because I need to invest in a new camera, and I need to invest in a new laptop. I cannot move forward, and I've decided I am not going to, and people are going to argue, oh, you can make any video you want. I could, but I also want it to look good. For the first time in a long time, I want my videos to look good. And when I started doing the board game stuff, I like more effort was put into it, and I was happier overall with the outcome. With that being said, this laptop is too old. It's at least an 8-year-old laptop, and the battery, like I've said before, is dying. So that, and then I really need to get my own camera for filming my own stuff. I'd like it to at least look decent quality, and I want to put out good stuff, and I want to show people how to play some games, because board gaming to me has become a really cool chapter of my life, and I like it a lot more than comics. That's not to say I like comics aren't good, but I can only sit here and talk comics rather than do full-on reviews, which I'd rather not. I also had other stuff in mind, like maybe an eagle's eye view of playing some games and just like, recording and capturing the whole thing. The problem I have with that is that that's a pretty long dedicated view time. Easily 45 minutes, if not longer. So we will see. Mr. Rumsey, thank you very much. Appreciate the subscribe. Good stuff. Yeah, I wasn't trying to be rude when you replied to the link that you did. I just found it very funny. It's like, hey, come by and hang out. And right away I saw a link to a video from your channel. So I'm like, I'll try to check that out afterwards. So hopefully you're doing okay amongst all of this quarantining fun. I'm just so sick of being inside. And I'm normally a homebody, so that's saying something. Just kind of jumping around Facebook a little bit. Oh, actually, here's something we could talk about. The Last of Us 2 gets a release date. So, if I remember, I don't remember what the original release date was. I think it was this month or May. I'm not 100% sure. But The Last of Us 2 got pushed back, and they kind of left a very cryptic message as to when we're going to get it. And they... there was a trailer, or not a trailer. Yeah, a trailer. Naughty Dog re-released their cover photo on their Facebook page saying it'd be available on the 19th of June. Cool. Give me reasons to, play some of these games. I actually haven't touched Final Fantasy VII Remake in a week, and that's not to say that's a bad game. I want to make that clear. It's not to say it's a bad game. It is saying, however, it's primarily due to the fact that, like, it's a game I have to really sit there and focus all my attention on. And my kid right now, because she's inside all day long, she doesn't let that happen. So my goal is hopefully sometime soon, one of my mother or my in-law will take my daughter for a night. And before anyone says, oh, you shouldn't be doing that during the quarantine, let me just say, she's been seeing both of her grandparents nonstop. Well, I'm saying not nonstop, but on their respective days that both me and my wife work. And they haven't been exposed to anyone else. I've also made it very clear that they're not to go to any major retailer with my kid under any circumstance. And if they're going to go outside, that's fine, but limit who they see. But other than that, yeah, everyone else is social distancing just fine. Lost a couple viewers on that one. Hopefully they're not like, oh my gosh, he doesn't care about his kid. No, my mother watches her once a week. My mother-in-law watches her twice a week. They both work in respective fields where they are completely covered to the T with gloves and, face any kind of like facial protection. My kid is safe. My family is safe. My extended family is safe. So anyone that thinks that my child is in danger, no. That my kid's also pretty resilient. She was diagnosed with the flu and had I'd say a temperature about 104 degrees. This was back in January, February. I remember leaving work early to take her to see her doctor. And when we got before we went there and while we were there, my kid was so out of it, which is not like her. She's very energetic, very happy-go-lucky, very, super smiley, super full of energy. She didn't know where she was half the time. And I remember when I was a lot younger, I got so sick I was hallucinating. So I got extremely nervous that this could get much worse than it was. And she had a temperature of about 104. And when we took her to her doctor, she was in and out of sleep the whole time. So we took her there. They diagnosed her with the flu, and they said, well, the next few days are crucial. Just do whatever you can. And the following day, it was almost a complete bounce back. And they're saying that, give it they say that the week is the gimme time on the flu. The following day, she was fine. She was eating again. She was moving around. She was still warm, still had a low-grade fever, and we kept her home. and we didn't take her anywhere else for the rest of the week because she's still very much contagious. With that being said, I kind of have to wonder here, because the state of New York just did a test or a survey I don't know. They said that up to over 8,000 residents of upstate New York could have very well have had the coronavirus and not even known about it. And since it shows symptoms very similar to the flu, I kind of have to wonder, is it a possibility my kid might have had it? And then that would explain why, my wife got really sick not too long after. Like, she had a cough that was going nonstop for well over a month. And it's probably a notification. Someone subscribed. Yep, right there. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Can you beat me? I will not, because that's rude. But I'll so I'm thinking I'll check you out on your channel later on. So it really does make you wonder about all of this. Now, that's not saying we shouldn't care or take precautions. Obviously be safe. If you're above, I'd say if you're above 50, take all the precautions in the world. If you have a compromised immune system, definitely take precautions. But I will say, though, it's really amazing just how resilient the human body is, especially children. So with that said, I'm really looking forward to hopefully kicking off the summer the right way. Board gaming up with family, cookouts, fishing. I definitely want to go shooting again. Oh my God, I would love to go shooting. Oh, the last time I went, shot a .308 for the very first time, and it rocked me. So, oh my gosh, I would love to go do that again. But yeah. And this all stemmed from me wanting to go to the mall. So you do what you can. So anyway, so what's new? Well, I don't know. We'll talk a little bit about what's going on in the world of reselling, because I had a couple interesting stories. I do that as a side hobby. It's not some weeks are better than others. I've really kind of kicked it up again just to have extra pocket money. So if I wanted to buy something, I'm constantly not relying on what we're bringing in as income, because we're both getting restricted hours to a degree. My wife more so than me. So starting with, I'll talk about a funny story, and then one that actually got me mad. So I was selling some computer equipment, and I had a guy who wanted to buy some old RAM. It was about 16 gigabytes of DDR3 RAM, average clock speed of 1600 megahertz. So it's 16 gigabytes. It'll get the job done, but if you're looking to play something a little more modern, it's going to struggle. So without even, asking me beforehand and wait, or no, I shouldn't say asking, but rather than ask and wait for my response, the first thing he says is, "Would you trade? And also, would you drop the price?" I'm like, okay. Here's buying and selling 101 for some people. Okay, listen, you don't ask for both at the same time. You start off with one, then move to the other. You're giving the person the clear idea that you're interested, but you might not have all the money you're working with. Sometimes you'll get a good deal, sometimes you won't. So I had it listed at $60 for both sticks. Now, some people would argue that's a little expensive. However, I looked those up on eBay, and I'm technically $20 to $40 under what it's currently selling and sold for. And I figured the low point would be, $10, $20 less, and that would be my absolute bottom. So, let's see. So right away he asked if I will trade, and without me even responding, he then sends me a picture of a bunch of Razer mouses, Razer mouses, like these, asking if I want any like Razer mouses, and he has like 5 or 6 boxes of those gamer mouses that you'll see at GameStop and Walmart all the time. It's literally the only gaming equipment they have in that store. And I said, no, I'm not really looking to get a new mouse. Oh, are you sure? They're cutting edge. And in my head, I'm like, they're really not. They're nice, but they're not cutting edge. They're actually far from it. So I told him, no. What's the lowest you can do? And I'm like, what are you willing to counter with? because in that situation, I'm not gonna lower my floor without him telling me where he's at, because I just don't want both of us to waste our time. And I don't remember exactly what he said, but he said something to the tune of, "Well, I can't spend how much it would buy to buy one stick." Something, I don't know. It was so weird how he phrased it. I think what he was trying to say was he doesn't want to blow what he would get on one stick of DDR4 RAM on two sticks of DDR3 RAM, and I'm like, do you know how cheap you can get current RAM now? I mean, it's still expensive, but one stick of DDR4 8 gigabytes of RAM, you're still roughly around the $40 to $50 range, depending on the quality of the RAM. So we didn't end up making the deal. Another funny one. This is more obnoxious than anything. I listed a 240 gigabyte SSD. For those of you who don't know what SSDs, they're another form of a hard drive, but it just reads things a lot faster than a standard hard drive. And a lot of desktops and laptops currently have those, because if you put your operating system on it as well as what you use to play games on, it runs things super fast. Not an essential, but it's becoming more of the norm, and I definitely get it. And now, mine was a Kingston 240 gigabyte model SSD, nothing special. I listed it for $20. I put my phone on vibrate, and I went to bed. I wake up, and I had 7 messages waiting for me. Now, my rule of thumb is I always recontact the person who will message me the first, because I feel like that's fair, and then I go down the line. So I message him back. I get nothing. I kind of gave it a couple of hours. Sometimes on Facebook Messenger, when you see that person's icon come down, that's when you know they've read the comment. So I saw that and waited, and it was about 2 hours. I got no response. So I moved down the line. And I think it was on the second person, when the last person, and I forget her name, it was a little weird, like Marijana or something, very, very, very non-American, but that's perfectly fine. But I couldn't. It was just a very different sounding name than what I've ever seen. And she asked me if it's available, and then she re-messaged me again asking me if it was still available. And I told her, I said, I have several other people I have to contact ahead of you. I'll let you know if anything changes or if it becomes available, because she was last in the line, and I didn't want to rip people off. So I'm on my way back from lunch, and I should say by that point I had already contacted, I think it was like the third person, and they were actually willing to come and pick it up because I had a graphics card as well as the SSD with me, and I was planning on meeting up with someone else while I was at work. That was the hope. I'm on my way back from lunch, and she messaged me back, "Hey, I'm just wondering if it's available yet." And at that point, it caught me at the absolute worst moment. I'm at work, where I'm now forced to have to wear a face mask everywhere I go, unless I'm sitting in my car. It's starting to hurt my face. I'm getting frustrated at the fact that I have people working with me who are just nonstop bitching about every little thing, because this whole situation has had everyone on edge. And this person is contacting me yet again when I said I would let them know if anything changes, and they're consistently asking me the same thing. So I messaged them right back, and I was just like, seriously? Like, not to be rude, but how, I said I'd contact you if something changed, and it's like the sale is currently pending, meaning that I have changed the availability of the item. Everyone who was getting it will get a notification from Facebook that the availability has changed. And you're still messaging me and bugging me about it. And I was like, I will contact you. I will message you if this person and the next 2 people decide they don't want it. Oh, okay. Oh, by the way, I should have mentioned that from the beginning. I had it listed for 20. She wanted to offer me 15. And I was like, no. I never used it. I bought it for the intent of putting it in a computer I was working on, and I did. I never got it. I never got it properly installed. I'm like, no, I'm not lowering the price when I have other people who are willing. And I still had people who were messaging me too about it. So that was it. I didn't actually hear back from them. And you know what? I'm not I'm not sorry. I'm really not sorry that it came to me acting like that. I really wish, I really wish it didn't. But at the same time, I am just so sick and tired of dealing with the nonsense and the drama with some people, and the fact that you're going to continuously bombard me when I said I will contact you. No. So that was definitely a. I really don't like being that short with people. But if you're really gonna take that option away from me, no. Other stories. Let's see. Oh, okay. Well, here's a funny story because I guess I should have. I guess I should have properly planned this out with my brother. And then we'll get to Star Wars, which is kind of like, well, a few other things, but Star Wars being the main one. So here's the thing. My brother has gotten into board gaming too, and he bought two games of Clank, like the Mummy's Tomb, and I can't forget the other one. So I'm like, oh, that's cool. Are they standalone games or the expansions? And right away he's like, I'd like to figure it out on my own, please. Like he thought I was, trying to tell him how to play it. And he's like, oh crap. No, these are both expansions. So he had kind of a good laugh. Basically what that means is if you get an expansion to a game and not the core game, unless the rules specifically say you can play it without, play the expansion on its own, you essentially just bought like DLC to a game you don't own. So that's kind of what he had. So I said, hey, I'll look around, see if I can find you a copy of Clank. Clank is a deck building game where throughout the game you're acquiring cards and you're building your own personal deck to do what you need to do. I don't know too much about it. I've never played it. But finding a copy was a pain in the butt because everybody had sealed copies and they all wanted like $50, $60 before shipping. That game, that's about what it goes for on Amazon right now. And my rule of thumb is if I can get it off Amazon and that new price is less than what they're offering for with, including shipping, I ain't paying shipping. Just have you send it to me. Because what a lot of people these like to do is like they love to throw these smaller boxes inside these giant like 12 by 12 by 8 size boxes, and it jacks up the shipping costs. And they'll be like, well, I've factored in shipping to that. I'm like, that's really cute considering the fact that the game box you're looking at is like no more than like an 8 by like an 8 by 8 by like 2-inch. I find it funny how you need like almost a full cubic foot to send this to me. So anyway, sorry, I'm grabbing something off screen. So anyway, end up finding a guy who does have it, and it's used, which is fine. I don't mind buying stuff secondhand. And he said he'll sell it 30, I think it was like $30. But then he's like, well, where am I sending it to? And I told him where he was sending it to. And he goes, oh, well, shipping cost is going to be like an extra $15, $20. And I told him, no, it's not. He goes, excuse me? And I said, no, it's not. First of all, you're shifting from Indiana. You're 5 states away at max. Unless you're sending it flat rate mail, which I'd argue is only, you only want to do that if you're sending a bunch of stuff that weighs a ton in these smaller boxes. Because other than that, you're just opting to get screwed on shipping. No, find standard size shipping boxes and make sure they're as small as you can get them without crushing or damaging what you're trying to send, and the shipping price will go down. I have sent tons of games by standard mail, and I've paid anywhere between $7 and $10 a piece. So a $30 game, and he's trying to tell me $50. No, he's trying to pocket extra money. So, I told him no. And then when he originally said he'll do everything for 40, I then asked him how he wants me to pay him, to no answer. Okay. you have a PayPal address? Or, I mean, I'm like, maybe he's going to get really ghetto and be like, oh, can you send it Western Union? I mean, come on, what do you want? So I get no response at all from him. And I leave it alone because I'm like, okay, clearly there's something there. So I noticed in one of my other board game groups, someone has a listing up, and he had Clank, and he was selling Clank. I go to message the guy, and I realize through his Facebook Messenger picture, it's that same guy. So I ask him just for fun, and I'm like, how am I going to pay you for this? No answer. I'm like, am I using PayPal? Am I using Cash App? I'd really prefer to use PayPal because there's buyer and seller protection on there. No answer. So I'm like, you know what? Never mind. This is becoming way too difficult. Folks, if there's any bit of wisdom I can impart on you, it's this, okay? If you're doing any kind of transaction over the internet with another person, you know, like me or just a regular person, not a business, and you're paying with credit card, you need a program. You need a system that's going to make sure that you don't get screwed over and they don't have a reason to complain or try to screw you over as too. PayPal, I'd say, is pretty good with that. I haven't had any issues with PayPal. I've used Cash App. I can understand the issues. I think it's too easy to use Cash App, and quite honestly, I'm not a fan of using Facebook Pay because there is almost zero safety net if you get screwed. Like, you could straight up pay someone and they can just say they never got it, because it's really easy to it's really easy to have someone screw you over. So if there's any bit of wisdom I can impart on you, it's that please make sure you cover your bases, and please make sure you don't, get in business with people who are really shady. I've had that happen to a good friend of mine. He actually got robbed out of $200. Robbed out of $200 for something he was buying. I think it was like software or computer equipment, but got robbed out of $200 because he used a really flimsy form of payment and he had no protection on it. And the guy walked away with $200 and nobody did anything about it. So just, be careful. So, and I had a few other deals this week that were interesting. People have been wanting to lowball me left and right on so many things. And before anyone says like, it's me, I'm a difficult person to work with, on the contrary, no. A lot of times, especially right now, people are trying to get whatever they can for little or next to nothing. And they do it in a way that's very disrespectful to the seller. Like, I am selling something and I have no problem giving a deal to people on Facebook Marketplace. But people also need to understand, too, that going in right off the bat and being as cheap and disrespectful as possible, you're going to piss off the wrong people. And I'm sorry, but I feel like when I'm putting stuff on there at heavily discounted rates and all you want to do is bitch about how I'm not giving you a fair deal, it's your obligation to not buy anything from me. You can do whatever you want. You can do whatever you want. No one's forcing you to purchase from me, but it's like that with video games. Like, video games, I have to argue, are the worst because people want everything for nothing. So maybe we'll get into another story or something later, but I kind of wanted to talk about the new Star Wars. Oh my God. Okay. So it's no lie. It is no lie that Star Wars has really been a very combative subject with a lot of people lately. And I've been very take it or leave it, especially from The Last Jedi and up. I've been very take it or leave it. A lot of people really like The Last Jedi. A lot of people really like Rise of Skywalker. A lot of people like Han's Solo, a Star Wars movie. And to be perfectly honest with you, I'm not the best person to judge whether or not those are good or bad. Pause. Video game sales are the worst. Facebook and Craigslist people want rock bottom prices all the time. Yeah, they absolutely do. They absolutely do. I don't, where I live in New York, central New York, not New York City, you couldn't pay me to live there. Because I'd find out where De Blasio lives, and I'd TP his condo or wherever he lives, because I think he is a terrible mayor and deserves to be removed from office. Anyway, moving on. Anyway, with games, like, people do it all the time. Like, they see NES Pursuit or the Game Chasers or any other, like, show on YouTube where people go out and buy stuff for, like, next to nothing, and they think, oh, I can do that too. The problem is like, these are all carefully edited clips that happen in, set times and in places where deals can be made. I mean, I've had people message me to buy, like, games that I've had that I know sold for like $80, and they're asking me, oh, can you sell it for 30? I'm like, no, I can't sell it for 30. Nor do I want to sell it for 30, especially when, like, these are high trending items on eBay and Amazon that sell frequently. So, yeah, video games are definitely the worst. But anyway, Star Wars. So, yeah, I'm not the best judge of the franchise. I really like movies 4 through 6. The prequel trilogy, not so much. I'll get to that in just a second, Mapper. The prequel, for all it had going against it, there was a lot of things I liked and respected about it. It took a lot of leaps and bounds, and I do like what it was trying to do as far as establish the Empire. The Force Awakens, I actually had a lot of fun watching it in theaters. Rogue One, solid movie, great little spinoff, proof that with the right people doing it, there's a bright future. Last Jedi, to me, was the sign of Kathleen Turner trying to push her own ideology on people, and we saw it again in Solo, a Star Wars movie, I guess, and not so much in Rise of Skywalker, but I'd say The Last Jedi was the one where a lot of people got that feeling. I hate to say it, but Game Chaser set a bad example. Those guys have gave everyone wrong expectations. I don't think necessarily it's the fact that they gave anyone the wrong expectation. I just think they set the bar to a certain level unintentionally, and they don't understand that, like, as they got more popular, of course that, they're going to be able to find better things because now they have a bigger budget. I was just saying in a group the other day, I'm like, there's just something about the Game Chasers that I really have been very disconnected with, and that's not to make personal attacks at them, although I am a little pissed off that they didn't make it to Retro Game Con. I think it was a couple of years ago. They were supposed to be one of the guest people there, and they never showed up. It was a very last minute cancellation, and it pissed me off. But for the most part, like, they're okay guys. Billy just irritates me on a personal level, and again, that's just how how I perceive it. I'm sure he's a cool guy in real life, and he cool to hang out with. And I'm not saying anything about him as a man or as a parent, but like him, like on those videos and how he would be captured, like it would annoy me sometimes. But then there were episodes where I find him extremely endearing. So again, that's all personal context. Jay is the one I've heard some negative things about, but without me getting to know him personally, that's just all talk. So, but anyway, back to Star Wars. So I bring up Star Wars for a couple of things. Number one, it's a series that I've found that I like more the further away from the movies that I get. Like, I really liked, like, I love The Mandalorian. It's a great series. I'm looking forward to the next season. The issue I'm having now is a lot of this Hollywood PC culture stuff, which is mandating that people of a certain color or gender or something have to play a role because fair is fair. Listen, I have no problem with any of a woman being in a main role. Apparently Hollywood forgot this. I mean, did we forget? Alien. I mean, did we forget Alien? I mean, that's one of the best installments into like horror sci-fi, ever made. But I thought Daisy Ridley as Rey was, I liked her. She was good. And the actress that was in Rogue One, I thought she did great. I did feel, however, that in The Last Jedi, one of the weakest characters had to have been Rose Tico, who existed, I guess, mainly for, I heard, because I haven't seen the full movie. I know what happens. I know where the plot goes. I've never seen it in full. I heard her character is a massive throwaway. She only existed for comedic relief. She was the guy to constantly keep Finn in line. There was a lot of slapstick humor that fell flat, and then there was a kiss at the very end as she died, stopping him from sacrificing himself. Like, that's the thing I don't get. Like, Finn is ready to sacrifice himself for the good, like for the the good guys, and then Rose completely like takes him out so he doesn't do that, and then like she kisses him and dies, and I'm like, what? And then there's the side plot on the gambling planet to tell people, animal cruelty is bad. I'm like, these are not things we need an after school lesson on. Rise of Skywalker had its own fair share of problems, I guess more so in the fact that they had no idea what they're doing and they flat out said they didn't know what they were doing. They've numerous reports talking about how when Kathleen Turner and Rian Johnson went into that movie, they had nothing ready. That's why they had to do massive reshoots. That's why Abrams had to come back and he had to shoot the dang thing, and that's where it is now. So now let's fast forward to this new project. No name, no plot, nothing. It is literally just they hired a woman. Give me just 2 seconds to pull up her name. I don't want to mispronounce it. All right, I'm taking a minute. I'm pulling it up, I promise. But yeah, there was a report that there was this brand new IP coming out for Disney Plus. And when they announced the new project, it got a lot of flack. It got a lot of flack. And for whatever reason, I'm not able to pull up this name, and it's ridiculous. Okay. Oh my gosh, why are you doing this? Hold on, the computer just took a nosedive. Okay, sorry, it took me a minute. I wanted to get her full name. So, Star Wars working on new female-driven TV series for Disney Plus from Russian Doll Writer series on Netflix. You can never get enough Star Wars, and with the advent of Disney Plus, new content looks to keep on coming. Yeah, and a lot of that new content has been getting canceled unless something drastically changes. But everything going on with COVID, I severely doubt that. Variety is reporting that a new Star Wars series is in the works, amongst all the other ones, amongst the Obi-Wan Kenobi one, which we don't even know what's going on with that, or a Boba Fett one. is in the works as at the streaming service from Leslie Headland, the co-creator and showrunner of acclaimed Netflix show Russian Doll. I've never heard of it prior to this. While exact plot details are being kept under wraps, they don't have any. Variety reports that it will be a female-led show that takes place during a different period of Star Wars timeline than other projects. Earlier this week, it was also reported that pre-production has already commenced on Season 3 of The Mandalorian, that despite this show's second season isn't due to drop until later this year. Well, that's good. So yeah. So this Leslie Headland is basically on the helm with this new project. And you know, I would have left it at that. You know, they announced, and this happened, and like I gotta take my time here because a lot's happened. So it was announced that this Leslie was going to be, you know, running the next Star Wars production for Disney Plus, the new series. Then she goes on some interview or talk show or whatever. Oh my God. She goes in this interview or talk show and right away, the first thing out of her mouth is, well, this is going to be a female-centric show, and that she's basically doing this on behalf of all other women, and then proceeded to go on and insult white women in the process. And I'm watching this, and I'm recommending people go and watch these interviews for themselves. I'm currently looking right now to see if I can find any new info, because I don't want to mispronounce anything. So they brought her on the show. She made it very clear that the goal of this was to make it very female-driven, came right out and said female-driven. And apparently there was another show on YouTube in which somebody was talking about, well, it's about time, and men just need to stop being babies, and you can't have your sausage all the time. It's time for the women. His female co-host completely roasted him alive and she says, basically to the tune of, it really doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter who is like at the helm of this project. It just matters if it's good. She says, she goes, how would you think it would feel if like a project was announced and it said it was a male-centric cast? Now, people will argue it's been a male-driven cast for quite some time, and honestly, you're not watching Star Wars, because there's a lot of female roles in these movies, and I hate to tell you this, but like, I don't hear anyone complaining then. But so this Leslie, I almost said Kathleen. I have Kathleen Turner on my mind. Oh my goodness, this whole thing is a mess. Excuse me. But yeah, when Leslie went out and did that, her little sit-down interview, it to me, it felt like somebody who was very much a very headstrong feminist who basically wants to make a Star Wars show in their image only and screw anyone else who likes it. Now, I'm not saying, again, I want to make this very clear. I'm not saying a woman can't do it. I'm not saying a woman shouldn't do it. I'm saying if they're qualified, just like if any man is qualified to be out there and writing or producing these shows, good. But there's a difference between coming out and saying, yes, I'm working on this new project. We're working on several different storylines. We're looking to have it based around this new character, and information will come out later. No, she came right out of the gate with making very suggestive comments about how she does not respect white women at all, pretty much alienating a good portion, I'd say, of the fan base, because it's not all guys that like this show. So that doesn't help. It also doesn't help that when the information got leaked about this, Bob Iger had no idea what was going on. He didn't know what this was. So now there's speculation that Kathleen Turner basically chose Headland to do this, knowing that those two share very similar ideologies. And then she went out and she had that little interview or sit down or Q&A and basically was like touting out her personal ideologies and beliefs when we weren't asking for them, and without running this across Iger. And before anyone asks, well, what's the big deal? Because with how The Last Jedi did, he made it so any future things had to be run by him. So there's that. The day before, I think it was, or like the morning before it was made public, Social Slang, I think is the website, would actually monitors your activity on social media. It found that she had deleted over almost 200, I think it's like 200, I want to say over 250 tweets. It could be more. It could be a lot more. Mysteriously gone. And it wasn't until people found archives of some of these tweets, they found out why she deleted them, because she's been a very vocal, a very vocal feminist to the point where she's been very toxic and very rude to a lot of people, and they knew that with that kind of ammunition at the ready, it could burn down the project before it begins. Sorry, I thought I heard my kid. So tweets mysteriously disappearing because they knew this. To me feels like it was all planned. Like they wanted to make sure to give her the best foot to stand on, and they did. And now we're gonna see what happens. So rather than tell us, hey, this is what we're working on, this is the project we're working on. No, we're making an all-female cast, and you need to like it, and we don't care if you don't like it, and you're gonna like our product whether or not. Whether you want it or not, and if you don't like it, it's because you're a woman-hating sexist, and you're everything that's wrong with it. And I don't want this to turn into a political conversation, but I will say this: if your main goal is to hijack a franchise to push your theories and your ideologies on people, you're doomed to fail from the get-go. People are sick and tired of being told what they have to like, what they need to like. They just want to appreciate good media. We're sick and tired of being told if you didn't like this, it's because you're with Birds of Prey, the director came out and literally listed like so many things, saying like, oh, well, people didn't like it because I'm a female director and I'm a female director of color, and because other DC movies haven't been doing well, and apparently she didn't see the box office the Joker did, or Aquaman, or Shazam. And then now it's like this person came out guns a-blazing and automatically turned people off. And then now her personal history is coming up, and find out that she's actually an ex-personal assistant to Harvey Weinstein, who may or may not have had a relationship with him. I believe she's made it public that she did, and then proceeded to get into a Twitter fight with somebody who took a play idea that she had, a Broadway play about her encounters with Weinstein. And I'm trying to remember this. It was a guy who she claimed took her idea, made a Broadway play, and then she proceeded to go and blast him, saying, of course, it's a man who needs to take an idea from a woman. So let me get this straight. So you made a play talking about a guy who just got sentenced to prison for sexual misconduct charges, or then sexual assault. I believe it was sexual assault. I don't have it sitting in front of me. You wrote a play talking about all the musings, or not the musings, but rather the dealings that went on that she acclaimed that she had firsthand knowledge of, and is mad that she can now profit. She cannot profit off of that play because allegedly it was stolen. So my argument is this: if this person is such a feminist to the point where they have to push an all-female Star Wars cast because she's pissed off at the men who apparently are ruining the series. I mean, again, she must not watch Star Wars. It's like, no. That right there screams so badly that she does not care about the issue as much as she claims she does. And keep in mind, this is all speculation, a little bit of conspiracy theory out there. Sorry, we're heading into that realm. But to complain that someone's taking credit for your work and your work is you is exposing a predator like Harvey Weinstein, in which you would depict him doing what you claim to do or things that he got accused and sentenced for, and you're mad you couldn't reap the benefits of that, and the benefits of that were rape and sexual assault, you're a profiteer. You're a hypocrite. Don't sit here and talk about how much you love women when you wanted to profit off of their pain. And that's my issue with her. So, yeah. So with all that information coming to light, I'm not looking forward to this project, and I wouldn't be surprised at all if Iger pretty much pulled the plug, especially now with the shutdown, and they're not wanting to waste any money on any other projects. And again, I'm not trying to make too much of a political comment on Leslie Headland, but at the same time, when you come right out of the gate and you're automatically just up in arms telling people that you don't like white women, you're calling them the B word, and how your only people you look up to are women of color, and it's at the same time pretty much taking a giant steaming dump on men in the process, and right away, and like, people are just gonna read that and say, well, if you're not fond of me, then why should I care? And just to be, in all honesty, if someone came right out and said that they're going to make a Star Wars-centric movie, a Star Wars movie with an all-male-centric base talking about them evil liberals, I'd be giving them hell too. Because in all honesty, I don't want politics and agendas thrown into stuff like this. We're supposed to have fun, for crying out loud, and we can't even have that anymore. Because people got to come in and they got to inject their own personal theories into something and ruin it for everyone. And if you appreciate things like that, that's cool. But for the same people that paid over $2 billion to go see The Force Awakens, I'm sorry. Don't sit here and lecture me on this crap and tell me how to feel. I treat women with a ton of respect. I work with mostly women. A lot of the greatest people in my life are all women. So for you to come out and tell me that I'm apparently a sexist woman hater because I'm not immediately behind your no-plan Star Wars project, but you want to make sure to let every people know, don't worry, it's women-led. That's cool. Don't care. I don't care. Make a good Star Wars show, and if you want to put a female in the lead role, go for it. But if you're just going to come out right off the bat and tell people this is what we're doing, and if you don't like it, well, then screw you. That's a great way. Sorry, I'm in the middle of a conversation with my wife, too. She's talking about the house and stuff like that. So I don't want to make anyone mad. I don't. If you're looking forward to it, that's cool. And if you're a feminist, that's cool. I'm not saying don't be a feminist, but you got to admit, when you come right out of the gate that strong and that negative, I'm sorry, it's gonna rub people the wrong way. And I feel like this is just woke Hollywood playing identity politics with no end in sight. And unfortunately, we all, especially now when we're forced to sit at home and we have to read about all this happening like after the fact. So it's like, well, great. Now I can't even look forward to that when this whole quarantine lifts, because now we're basically going to have something that's force fed to us and make us feel bad if we don't like it. It's a shades of EA and Battlefield 5 all over again. But hey, I do hope it does well, honestly. If it's a good show, it's a good show, and I'll give it the benefit of the doubt. But it's not as bad as what they did with Doctor Who. Oh my god, I cannot believe it. It's just Doctor flipping. Oh, Doctor Who, what happened to you? Maybe we'll talk about that another time. But yeah, the season finale for their season 12, it had the lowest recorded view. It had the lowest recorded the lowest recorded views of any new Who that has come out since the franchise got restarted in 2005, and has been massively just hated, unaccepted, and tossed away by the fans. And maybe that'll be an episode for another time. Other people have talked about it for about a month, but I'll put it to you like this. So pretty much they decided they were going to take the entire legacy of the show prior to it being rebooted in 2005 and all of the movies they made after the fact, and just give it a giant middle finger and say, no, this is the real history. And we're just like, it doesn't matter. Why are you so focused on making this character a female from the very beginning? And why are you so focused on undoing almost 60 years of legacy to prove a point? Oh my God, it was so bad. And you know what? I'll spoil a little bit for some people, okay? I'll spoil a little bit of what happened in the Doctor Who finale for people, okay? So when they announced Jodie Whittaker was going to be the next Doctor after Peter Capaldi, I was one of the people, and I might still be on my channel or not. I was one of the people that came out and said, I like this idea. It's a new direction and has a lot of possibilities. And it started off great. I think it had around 10 million the first episode she was in. And that's good. But then you started seeing what the BBC wanted to do. And that was make a very progressive show and completely just do away with everything that made the character of the Doctor good. So the last episode, they basically made all of her companions seem like bumbling idiots except for the only female in the group, who literally did nothing the entire episode except sit and sulk and have a couple of one-liners. And even when it's so bad as there was like a 5 or 10 minute scene where one of the older male character, which keep in mind, Graham, I believe, Graham, he's on this trip, and this is after like losing his wife. So he has this scene where he's buttering up the female, and like it's the fam that she the fam, because gotta be hip. She refers, the Doctor refers to these 3 people as her fam. Graham, the oldest of the 3, is sitting there telling Yaz, the only female of the group, how wonderful and awesome she is, and I'm just like, this is really out of nowhere. Like, this is a pep talk we didn't need. And I started putting the pieces together. I'm like, Ryan is the simpleton male who's just there to fill in the role. Graham is the old white guy who's there to be kind of like the jokey character that we can all laugh at. And Yaz is supposed to be the female character we're supposed to take seriously, except she has like really nothing going on here. The reincarnation of the Master felt like an ADHD patient who didn't take their medication. Jodie Whittaker as the Doctor in this episode she spent the majority of the episode shocked at what's going on rather than properly emoting, which is a crime, and basically discovered the origin of the Doctor and pretty much everything that had made the show when it started back in like 63. Completely and totally worthless. Like all of the character regenerations from one Doctor to another, everything that happened, all of the weight on all of those episodes in which one Doctor was going to reprise the role literally means nothing, because they needed to go back and tell a pointless story that didn't need to be told while killing the legacy of the character just so they can say, yep, nope, Nope, the doctor was actually a female, was actually a little girl when she started out, and she's not a Time Lord. Oh, and that little girl is that's the Time Lord, or like that's Doctor Who, and the Time Lords are actually a creation of the Doctor. And I'm just like, oh my god, what are you doing? So, oh my gosh, just so much nonsense. It was not ideal. I was not a fan, and yeah. So, yeah, I just wanted to talk a little bit about some of that stuff. I promise next time I won't get as political, but it's been no surprise that Chibnall and everyone at the BBC has been wanting to do things their own certain way and pretty much alienating all of the fans for the sake of being able to say we're doing it differently because we believe in this new direction more than the actual like legacy of the show that which people love. So, yeah. So anything else? Anyone got any questions or any comments they want to make? Just kind of went off on a tangent on the last two things. Kind of touching back on Star Wars for a minute. Someone asked the question if Bob Iger would fundamentally cancel the project. I don't think he will. I think by doing so, he's risking backlash. And I'm thinking what might happen is it might delay the project to the point where they can't greenlight it or not have the money to produce it. Oh, you played the last Jedi new game. I did. Very good. Very well done. I don't really have too much to say. Fallen Order. Star Wars The Fallen Order. Or just Star Wars Fallen Order. Very good game. Definitely a lot. People compare it to Dark Souls. It's Dark Souls and the idea that you can't just run in there with a lightsaber and just, no, you need to plan your attacks. Otherwise, you're going to die. So, it's really good. Plays phenomenally well. A little difficult, but that's fine. I appreciate the challenge. The problem is that the game came out right before Final Fantasy VII Remake came out, so that's kind of going to be sitting in my backlog until Final Fantasy VII Remake gets done. Because my goal is I'm going to beat that game, then I'm going to go back to Fallen Order, and then at that point, I'm thinking it's going to be toward the end of May, because I play games relatively, slow. And then I'm going to either be playing the new Resident Evil or Doom Eternal. And then in June, The Last of Us 2 looks like it's going to be like the next big one that comes out. But Fallen Order is great. I think GameStop is currently running a deal on their website for it now, if you're curious about it. But that's going to do it for this episode. Hopefully you all had a good time. I promise the next episode won't be nearly as chatty about things like uber feminism and people hijacking franchises for their own personal ideologies. And I just want to emphasize again, like if this was someone with ideologies that even I agree with, I'd be holding their feet to the fire as well, because if you're trying to inject things into a franchise that have no purpose, you run the risk of alienating more people. And it's kind of like what Jodie Whittaker said. There's no reason to change something and further divide people, but she also has no problem interjecting change and further dividing people in a project and in a franchise in which she also said that she has never watched. So that's it. I'm done. Hopefully you all are having a fantastic day, and stay home, stay safe, and take care of yourselves.